Hello, my name is Richard Archdeacon and I'm here with Chris Leach. We're going to have a conversation about the role of the Chief Information Security Officer. I've seen that its role change a lot over the last few years, Chris. What are the kind of observations you've seen of the role?
So even in my own career as a CISO, I think it's changed. And that pace of change is going quicker and quicker. But initially it started off, the CISO became the guy they targeted because he was the network guy. And then we became a little bit more formalized, and then we became the IT security guy, to where we are today, where the CISO covers issues from the disaster recovery business continuity sometimes, physical security in some cases, to cyber and privacy, and it's just constantly changing. I think half of what a CISO does is in the political realm, the soft skills, the HR, the retaining and attracting people, talking. And I think if you do it well, then all the other stuff flows.
Looking at it historically, it was always easy to dive into the technology as a solution by itself. However, that often causes more complexity and more of an issue. So I think it's understanding how to get those teams working, those whole dynamics. But I think we also have to start to look at how the CISO will be driven more by outcome rather than just by what they're doing. And this, I think, is part of the reflection of the change that they've had in their reporting position, who they're reporting to and what they've got to report on. If they're going to report up to the Risk and Audit Committee, they're going to have to understand their language. If they're going to be working at operational level, they're going to have to understand that language as well. So I think it's not only the soft skills, but it's also the communication skills, which have changed a lot and are becoming very important to the CISO. How they communicate to the wider organization what they're doing and how they're going to achieve it. Chris, let's move on to another specific topic, regulation and compliance, a favorite with all CISOs. Do you think CISOs get enough time on their compliance skills, or should they be spending more?
If you were to ask most CISOs who are in the chair today how much time they spend on compliance, you might be surprised that it's north of 70% of their day-to-day activities. So that takes away the rest of the time from doing the soft skills we talked about previously, takes away time from doing what we might want to call the sexier part of security with all the vulnerabilities and all the bits and bytes and the botnets and so forth. And you're dealing with, can I give to a regulator, that could be an internal regulator, an external regulator, a business partner, can I certify to them or prove to them that I'm doing things in a compliant manner?
I found that as well. Compliance is a huge burden for CISOs, and it really does distract them from getting on and addressing the issues that they have to. So compliance, tick box, equals security, but we know it doesn't. You have to actually make the organization secure.
And that's a scary thing for the CISO, because his CEO will say, but I am compliant with, and yet there may be a breach, there may be a break-in, there may be whatever it is. So don't always think that compliance equals security.
I'm just thinking about some of the operational responsibilities of a CISO. And one area which the CISO is always aware about is the whole idea of vulnerabilities being reported. But it's managing them internally that's really critical. It's easy to say, why don't you patch all the vulnerabilities? That would solve your security problem. But in operational sense, that's really not practical, is it?
So they may be accountable for the vulnerability. They may not be remediating the vulnerability, which even takes you one step further back from the issue that you're bringing up. This is one of those areas that is very difficult to manage and hard to see what's going to come at you and what the downstream impacts are going to be. And yet, when you think about it, and this may be overused, but if you think about it, the bad guys only need to be right once, and the enterprise needs to be right all the time to keep the bad guys out. I think the point that needs to be made very clearly is that it is very much an art form. And it comes from experience and dealing with different things that may go on within an environment and leveraging that skill set with others across the environment to then move from one of preparedness that we talk about all the time to recovery. But the discussion really should be about resilience, business resilience, cyber resilience, because issues are going to happen, incidents are going to happen, but how quickly can we recover? What are the processes in place that help us do that?
I think we've covered the current role of the CISO and how complex it's become and how they have so many different responsibilities.
From 100,000 foot, way up high.
And I think there's a lot more detail we could go into, a lot of those topics. But one of the areas that really interests me is how the CISO is having to manage the incredible change as businesses are driven by technology to change their business model. And so the idea of the CISO managing during digital transformation, I think is going to be an incredibly important part of the conversations going forward.
Couldn't agree with you more.